Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I want to talk about how MPs and politicians in general, it would work for local councillors, it would work for people who aren't even elected officials but want to be. How can they actually talk to the public? It's something that we talk about all the time, communication, that communication between the government, local government, national government and the public. But how can you do it realistically? I've had some thinking. I've been doing some thinking. It has been known. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button, stay notified. So there's a bit of a problem at the moment with politicians, sort of, particularly I'm thinking at the national level, but it applies equally in local government. Politicians are sort of cottoning on to the idea that their lines of communication with the public are not what they should be and certainly not what they could be. And some of them realise that social media is part of that. But with my latest thinking, I'm going to suggest it's not just social media where politicians are missing a trick. Now, in America, there is a YouTuber stroke politician, although attempting to win elected office, hasn't won it yet, called Kat Abigazala. And she is trying something new in America. She is trying direct campaigning. She talks in her video, she's got a latest one out very recently, where she talks about the usual way of campaigning in America, which is a little bit different into this country, although there are similarities as well. And she wants a more direct form of campaigning, where she's talking directly to people and eliciting funds from grassroots people, ordinary people, not the usual phone banks ringing up people asking for money. And it got me to thinking the way politicians in this country communicate with the public. First of all, we know it's not working, but let's first of all look at how it works. How does it work at the party political level? So we have meetings for party members. If you are a member of a political party, for example, the Labour Party, doesn't really matter, it's the same for all of them, you can go along to local meetings which will happen now and then. Sometimes they'll happen regularly, sometimes not so regularly, it depends on your local area. But you can go to meetings where you as party members can discuss things. Even then, I have to say my personal experience is varied because I've moved around a bit, so I've experienced different local Labour parties. Some of them are very, very restrictive in the way you can actually discuss things. Some things there's no discussion at all. It's just like you get to say a thing and then maybe someone responds, maybe your local MP or whatever responds, and then that's the end of it. There's no actual discussion. Sometimes you do get proper discussions. That tends to depend. But that's just for party members. Then what else do you have? Well, some of those party members will then go door knocking. So that's your direct communication with the public, but it means an individual party member who may or may not be the candidate or the MP or the councillor will talk directly with a member of the public one-on-one. Okay? You've got surgeries, but that's for when you've got a specific problem. So you can go in and see your local MP. That's for when you've got a specific issue. There's no real discussion about anything. In terms of direct communication with the public, that's it. That's particularly when you're talking about national government MPs, that's basically it. At the local level, it can vary. But we don't really have, for example, the town hall thing in America, which is quite common, where you just get a whole mass of people together. Whoever it is, the politician stands up, talks about something, takes questions from the floor. We don't even have that. And it got me to thinking, so how could we do it differently? Because I know, for example, that the Labour leadership have been sort of suggesting to their MPs that they need to engage more on social media. I don't think they're really telling them how, and I don't think they can tell them how because the Labour leadership clearly doesn't know how to use social media itself. And it just got me thinking there's a lot of politicians out there realising that their lines of communication to the public are poor, but not really knowing how to change that. And I've got a couple of ideas here. So what about direct meetings? The way I picture it, so imagine, so we've just had conference season, so we've had party conferences. All the major parties have had a conference, right? At that conference, you'll have had all the stage managed stuff, sure, but you also have fringes, right? So these are smaller meetings where it's on a particular topic. So, you know, a couple of years ago, I went to the Labour conference, and one of the fringes I went to was talking about our place in the EU, you know, the future of our, you know, what we should do about it. This was when Labour was still in opposition. But it can be on various topics, and they are. You've got fringes on all sorts of topics at these conferences, and it basically takes the form. You've got a panel of people who have an interest and or some level of expertise in what you're going to be talking about. A load of people are interested in coming along, and they sit down, listen to stuff, and then ask questions. And again, sometimes it can be ask a question, get an answer. It's a crap answer, but they're moving on. Sometimes you get an actual discussion going. It varies. What about doing something like that? What about doing something like that? And you don't have to have a conclusion to it. You don't have to have a vote on anything. It's just a discussion. It's literally a discussion. You know, the local MP or a candidate doesn't have to be an MP. You could be targeting for the next election going, I want to be the MP here. What's to stop you just putting something like that on? Right, okay, every couple of weeks, a different part of the constituency, use a church hall or something like that, book something out. We're going to have a discussion about this. Get a couple of people in who have some level of expertise over that topic of interest, preferably something that is of interest to that local community. Invite people to come along and then discuss it. And then you think to yourself, so that would be a level of engagement we don't currently have. So then you think to yourself, well, hang on a minute. Not everyone will be able to get to it. The time you choose, the date you choose may be unsuitable for some people. Some people may have access problems. There may be some people who were really interested in that topic area, but they're from a part of the constituency where they can't really get in, or, you know, due to disabilities, they may have access problems as well. So alongside doing that, and you can advertise it as well, that you're going to have 2 meetings on that subject area, whatever it happens to be. It could be healthcare, policing, immigration, housing, education, whatever it is. And you're going to have 2 meetings. A physical meeting that's going to take place in some church hall or council building or something like that. Some building where you can rent it out cheaply, or preferably for nothing, but, you know, cheaply at least. And organise something. And then you have an online version, right? Where just anyone can come in, and, you know, you can invite people to ask questions in advance as well, email them to you. So you can spend a portion of that stream going through those, but also responding to the chat. The chat, of course, could be, you can't restrict it to the people from that local area. It could be people from all over. Something like that. Something like that I can see. If you've got, like, the party leadership of whichever party saying to their MPs or councillors or, you know, aspiring MPs or councillors, and saying to them, well, you need to engage with the public more. You need to engage more with the public. Wouldn't this be a good idea? You know, create a sort of town hall type event, which we don't really have in this country. We may have little pockets of it because, of course, there's nothing to stop people doing that. So it may well be that there are MPs out there who do this, but it's not particularly widespread. And then doing an equivalent one online for those people who, for whatever reason, couldn't attend the in-person one but were still interested. That at least would be a way of politicians engaging more with the public. At least try something out, because the reason I talk about Kat Abergazala, for example, is what she is doing is different to this in a sense, but what she's doing is, and this is what I would like people to do in politics, she's trying something new out. Instead of going, oh, we campaign like this because this is the way we've campaigned for decades, she's going, doesn't work that well, does it? Maybe we could do things better. Maybe we can actually do things better. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for listening, and until next time, I'll see you later.